restarting this. There we go. Okay. So that, yeah, that fixed it. Cool. Very interesting. Yeah, audio on Twitch was not working, but it appears to be working now. So yes, perfect. Okay. So welcome everyone to the beginner workshop we're going to learn how to make a video game. Now, you'll hear me at times call this programming. That is a range of things that can be very beginner level stuff like what we're going to do today, and it can be very complicated stuff. I don't want you to get afraid of the fact that I'm going to call it programming, because as you will see today, all of you can do this, and it's not as intimidating as a lot of things might make it look. So we're going to go ahead and dive into it. I am going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to choose the correct screen. We'll choose this one. And you all should be able to see my screen now. So we're going to be using a tool to make our game today called Construct 3. And the easiest way to get to this is to go to editor.construct.net in a web browser. Construct.net. But let's say that you forgot this and you wanted to make a game later, but you remember that it's called Construct 3. I'm going to let you in on a secret. Most of what I did when I was a professional programmer, and most of what my friends do who are professional programmers, most of what we do is actually just Google things. So if you ever forget the name of Construct, all you got to do is just search for Construct 3. And oh, look at that, it's right here. And I think that there is a try now button. So just an inside secret of how programming works. A lot of it is just Googling things. But anyway, so for everyone here who's following along, we want to open up a web browser and go to editor.construct.net. And I'm going to click no thanks. If you ever get like a window that pops up that asks you to do things like, usually there's a way to bring them back if you click the wrong thing. So don't worry about it. So no thanks, not now. Okay, so we are now in the thing. We need to figure out what we're going to make. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose new project, because again, there's a lot of buttons here. New project seems to make the most sense to me. If I click the wrong thing, I can always go back. So I'm going to click new project, and it's going to ask us for a name and a bunch of other options that, again, I'm going to kind of ignore. Now, what do we want to call this? Well, first of all, we need to figure out what we want to make a game about. What I like to make a game about is there's this great video of Bill Gates jumping over a chair. I think you'll probably know who Bill Gates is, right? The creator of Microsoft. One day in the far past, he was quite young, and he has this completely bizarre news interview where the news anchor says, is it true that you can jump over a chair from a standing position? And Bill Gates says, it depends on the size of the chair. And then he jumps over a chair. And the audio, I think, doesn't work properly over Zoom for me. But if you could hear this, it's playing Damn It Feels Good to Be a Gangster in the background, which is actually probably good. We'd probably get copyright strike if we played that. But anyway, so that's the video. For those of you who are in Twitch chat and want to watch the entire thing, I'll post it there. I'll also post it in the Zoom if I can figure out how to get to the chat from here. Yeah, so if anyone wants to watch this video later, it's 18 seconds. It's completely worth it. That's what I want to make a video game about. I want to make a game about Bill Gates jumping over a chair. Is this going to be the world's best, most exciting, new Fortnite game? Probably not, but most games didn't start out that way. In fact, even Fortnite, no one played originally. I remember I met some of the people who made it originally, and like no one wanted to talk to them because they didn't have the game mode that everyone liked. So this is not going to be the world's best project, but we will get there. We will make something fun. I promise you by the end of this workshop, we will have something fun. Okay. So I'm going to name our project Bill Gates Chair. And before I hit create, just a reminder for any of you who joined late, what we did was we went to editor.construct.net, CONSTRUCT.net. Click no thanks, not now. And I clicked new project, and I title it Bill Gates Chair. If I'm ever going too fast, feel free to interrupt me. I'll put the chat over on this side. So cool. Okay, so now we've got our game. And I can actually already hit play. It's not going to be much of a game. If you get this pop-up thing, you just have to say, oh, why won't it allow me to? Well, try again. Try again usually fixes it. And you can see we got this blank window here. Not much going on. But it's the makings of our game, the beginning of our game. Okay, so we have this blank screen now. And what I'm going to do is I am going to go into, well, let me explain kind of what's going on here first. So this center area is where our world map is going to be. This is like where we put things that are going to exist in the world. This is where, you know, this is our like top-down view of what's going on, or our side view. This is where everything goes. This is our map. It doesn't look like it now, but I promise you this will be our map. This right-hand side where it says project is where we put the stuff that exists in our world. And I know that's an ambiguous term. We'll see some examples of what this looks like later. But the main thing is, this is where we put like types of stuff. So like if you are, you know, you're sitting on a chair right now, and probably lots of other people are also sitting on a chair, or they're sitting in bed or a couch or whatever. But, you know, I'm going to pretend it's a chair for simplicity. And even though everyone has their own chair, they're all still chairs, right? Over here is where we put that concept of a chair, like this, you know, the general chair type. And we call this an object, which is why it says object types. But it just, you know, you think of it as a concept of a chair. There can be many chairs, but this is where we put the general idea of one. And then this left-hand side of the screen, I'm going to ignore for right now. Don't worry about it. It looks very complicated. Whenever there's anything that looks really complicated, personally, as someone who's been, you know, a professional programmer before and has been coding more or less for 20 years, still, whenever I see anything that looks complicated, my first instinct is I'm going to ignore this and come back to it when I need something. So I'm just going to ignore this. Okay, so we got our world, we got our stuff. What is some stuff that's going to exist in this world? And remember, we're making a game where Bill Gates is going to jump over a chair. So what are some types of things that would need to exist in this world? And if you know any, feel free to post it in the chat. I'll give you a second to think about that. What are some types of things that are going to need to exist in this world? Okay, already seeing some of the right answers. So people are saying a chair, a person, a chair, a person. There's actually one that's kind of a trick question. So I'm wondering if anyone will get this one. Floor, perfect. Someone got floor. So that one's kind of the trick there. The floor is actually a thing. You don't necessarily think about it, maybe unless you're from a family that's where, you know, your parents work construction or something like that. And maybe you think about it then, but yeah, a chair is a floor is actually a thing too. Like someone needs to build it. Okay, so we're going to go over here to our object types area where we put our types of things. Walls are also another one. Yeah, walls, doors. We could add all of those. So object types, right click on it and click add new object type. And in my object types, again, there's a lot of things here. Don't worry if you feel a little bit overwhelmed with how many things there are here. A lot of making anything is just learning to ignore stuff that's not relevant to you. I don't even know what half of these things do. And I've done this workshop and been using Construct for, I think, about 10 years. So don't worry about it. What we need to remember is that most things in a game are going to be a sprite. So one of the things I want you to remember, most things in a game are going to be a sprite. So we're going to pick sprite here. And if you're ever not sure what to pick, sprite is a good place to start. If it doesn't do what you want, then you can start experimenting with some other things. You could Google it like I was talking about. We're going to choose sprite. We're going to give it a name. Now, by default, Construct will not require a name. It'll just make one up for you. I recommend you give things names. It makes it much easier to figure out what's going on if you have names. So I'm going to click sprite. And I am going to give it a name. And my sprite is going to be named Bill. So my first thing that I'm going to make is called Bill. And I'm going to click insert. Cool. So I got our first object type. And you can see there's nothing here. That's OK. Now I'm going to create another object type. Well, actually, we'll ignore that for right. So we got our first object type. Let's double click over here where it says object types. Let's double click on him and it'll open up an art editor. And if we ever close this and we want to get back to it, all we need to do is go over here to this right-hand side and double click on the thing we want to edit. And we get this art editor. So this is where we will draw our Bill Gates. Now we got a bunch of tools here. If you've ever used Photoshop or Microsoft Paint, you might be familiar with these. These are our tools. And so we're going to use these tools to make a Bill Gates. And I'm going to take a brief pause here. I'm going to work on my Bill Gates. And while I'm working on my Bill Gates, I want you to make your Bill Gates as well. Cool. Someone raised their hand. I don't know how to deal with that. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. Yes. So if you want to talk, feel free to raise your hand. You're also welcome to ask questions in the chat or in the Q&A. But if you do raise your hand, I will absolutely allow you to talk. So feel free. There's no change in my blank page after click Bill. You need to double click. So over here in this right-hand side, I'm going to double click on Bill, and that will open up the page where we can edit our thing. And then what we'll do is we'll go over to this paintbrush, and then that's where we can start drawing our Bill Gates. I'm going to draw him with very, very tiny body and a very big head. Maybe I'll even make his eyes a little bit skewed just for fun. Give him some glasses. By the way, if you are an artist, you are going to make a much better looking game than I am at Code Day, I'm sure, because I am not an artist. This is my Bill Gates. Yeah, I'll give you a few more minutes to make yours. Someone asked, how do you add a sprite? Again, we want to go over to this object types folder. We want to right click on it. We want to say add new object type, and then we just scroll down to sprite. Or if you can't find it, there's a search bar, just type in sprite. But I already have my sprite, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to double click on him to edit. This is not actual size. If you didn't notice, you could resize these when they're done. Okay. Once you're done with designing your sprite, the last thing you want to do is there's this crop button up here. And what you'll want to do is click this button. And what that's going to do is you can see that there's kind of this box around Bill Gates. One of the things I want you to remember about this, take out of this workshop, is that computers are really, really dumb. And that might sound kind of mean coming from someone who is a computer programmer and has worked with computers in my professional life, but computers are really dumb. And if your game is not doing what you want, it's usually just because the computer thinks you want something subtly different. And so in this case, because Bill Gates is actually this entire square, the game is like, oh yeah, Bill Gates is actually floating a few inches off the ground because he's this square and he's in here. When I hit crop, it's going to remove that. So you can see now Bill Gates fills up the entire frame, or more or less. He's not actually flat, so I can fix that a little bit. Okay, so we're good with our Bill Gates. I'm going to close out of that. And now I'm going to take my Bill Gates over here where I see object types, and I'm just going to drag and drop him into the world. I can resize him. I can put him wherever I want. Very, very flexible, open to whatever you want to do. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and make those other two things. Someone said, how do you get to the art panel? Again, the way to do that is go over here to your object types and double click on them. So again, if you don't remember how to add an object, we're now going to need to make our second object, which is going to be, for me, I'm going to make the floor next. So I'm going to hit add new object type. Again, over here on this right-hand side, right click, add a new object type. I'm going to go down to sprite. I'm going to type floor. Oh, I can't type floor for a really complicated reason that doesn't really matter. But yeah. Yes, so I'll call it ground. Or I could call it platform even. I'll hit insert. And again, that's going to put it over here. And then we'll double click to get into it. Now, a few more questions while people are going through those steps. Someone had asked, can you import previously drawn art? Yes, absolutely, you can. You just hit the folder icon, and it'll actually ask you to pick an image from your computer. I will pick, let's say, here's from the intro video. This is a screenshot of me from the intro video. I don't know why you'd want that as your floor, but I'm going to go with it. So that's going to be my floor now. So you can do that. So here we go. So now here's my floor. I'm going to drag that out, and I'm going to resize it so it's a reasonable size. And this is the weirdest floor I've ever done in a construct workshop, but you can do that. Now, if you're not good at art, and you still want cool art, one, look through team building, try to find someone who wants to be on a team who's an artist. Two, you can look through Art Collab, which is on the Discord in the topics section. And it's for people who just want to make art for anyone's video game. And then three, if you really can't find anyone, there's a really cool website called Open Game Art. And it's just got free art that you can use for your game. So that's another way to do it. Okay. Last thing we're going to make is we're going to go into object types, add new object type. Everything in a video game is a sprite. So I'm going to double click on that. And I'm going to draw a chair. Maybe I'll use a different color. So I'll make my chair blue. This is kind of a nice blue. And it's going to be a computer chair, so it's going to have that sort of computer chair thingy. I don't know what to call it. The spinner thing. And again, if we want to get rid of the thing, if we want to make the box the same size as the thing, we're going to hit this button right here. It looks like the sort of crop symbol that you see like movie directors doing or whatever with their fingers, right? Like that sort of thing. We're going to click that button, and it will make the box be the size of whatever we imported. Okay. And then finally, we're going to drag and drop that from the right-hand side out here into the game again. And there we go. We've got our chair. We've got our bill. Do we have a game yet? Is there a way for us to enlarge the box given for us to add objects in? There is. I don't remember how to do it offhand. So let's see if we can figure it out. Again, part of being a programmer is trying to figure things out. Resize. And then you can choose a new size. So it's right next to that crop button. There's a resize button. Yep, I'm gonna give you a second to catch up. So feel free to catch up again. We want to make those three object types. We want to make our Bill Gates. We want to make our platform, and we want to make our sprite. So go ahead and try to come up with those three sprites and drag and drop them. And if you have any questions, post them in the chat. So someone asked, for the box that we keep the sprites and other objects in, not the box where we draw in. If this project window is missing, like if you were to have closed it, like let's say that this is just gone, what you want to do is click Menu, View, Bars, Project Bar. And then we'll just drag and drop that up here. How do we get a sprite to be on top of another sprite? Like Bill should be on top of the floor, but he is under. So yeah, like if you have this problem where something is underneath something else, there's two ways to fix this. One of them is over on this left-hand side, this Z elevation thing. If you just make it a number that's bigger than, like this number is 0, so if I make this number 1, it'll make him in front of it. But the other way is if you're familiar with Photoshop, which I think a lot of people who are like artists are familiar with Photoshop, you can actually add layers here and you can move things between layers. So if you're someone who's used Photoshop before, that might be a little bit more intuitive to you as having different layers. Okay, so I'm hoping that everyone has gotten their Bill Gates, has gotten their chair, and has gotten their ground. If you don't have those three and you need to catch up, that's okay. This will be recorded. We're doing another one of these tomorrow morning, or you can also post in help desk, and I will be there to help you, and other people will be there to help you. So we got our three things here. I'm going to go ahead and hit the triangle button up here that will start the game. And for whatever reason, I have to hit try again every time. There we go. So we got our game. It's not much of a game right now, right? We can't really do anything. So here's the part where we start telling the computer how to make this a game. Now, one thing that I want you to remember about computer programmers, I already told you, like, we have to look things up a lot. I already told you everything in a video game is a sprite. One other thing I want you to take away from this, I told you computers are stupid too, right? One other thing I want you to take away from this is that programmers are really lazy and we don't like to do work. And I'm sure that that will resonate with many of you. Don't do any work you don't have to. We even have entire like acronyms, like people will say DRY as a thing in programming. It means don't repeat yourself. We really don't want to do any more work than we have to. And so one of the ways that we have dealt with that as the programming industry is by trying to make things, things that we do very frequently, easy to do. And the way that we do that in Construct is we have these things called behaviors. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over here on this right-hand side where we have this object types folder, right? I'm going to right-click on Bill Gates, or if you're a Mac, you want to two-finger click on Bill Gates. And I'm going to hit Edit Behaviors. So again, if you missed that, over here on this right-hand side, I'm going to find Bill Gates. I'm going to right-click on him, and I'm going to hit Edit Behaviors. And now I'm going to click Add New Behavior. Now, because a platformer game, which is what we're making here, is a really, really common thing in video games, this is built in for us. We don't have to do any of this work. And this is not a thing that's exclusive to Construct. It's not like we're saying, oh, you're beginners, so you don't know how to do anything, so we're going to make this easy for you. Real video games are built in things. There's two popular programs called Unity and Unreal Engine. And both of them actually have a lot of this stuff built into them. So real programmers who are making real AAA games that cost you $60 are using the same technique of not having to repeat themselves, not having to redo things that are really common to games. So in this case, I'm going to scroll through this list and find what looks like something that's useful to us, which is movements and platform. So again, for anyone who missed that, that full series of steps is I'm going over here to the right-hand side where it says object types, edit behaviors, add new behavior, and then platform. And now when we run our game, we're going to see that something is going to happen. So I'm going to hit play. Try again for me. And okay, well, Bill Gates fell through the floor. So not exactly what we're looking for, but it's a start. It's starting to look like a game. So, okay, how do we make this game more of a game, like something that's fun and interesting to play, and not something where Bill Gates immediately falls off the screen and, it's not really a game at all? Well, again, remember, computers are really dumb, and we didn't tell the computer that this thing is the ground. In fact, it doesn't even look like ground in this case. It looks like a stretched out picture of me, right? The computer has no idea that we want that to be something that Bill Gates can stand on. And so what we need to do is we need to tell the computer that that's something that Bill Gates can stand on. Now, what's a really common, is that a really common thing that games would need to do? Yes, absolutely, right? Most games are probably going to need to know that, the player can stand on something, and it doesn't want us to implement that. And by the way, if any of you have ever taken an intro programming class in school where they make you implement all of this, no one would ever do that in real life because it's just too boring and difficult, especially for 3D games. Unless you're one of the few people that gets paid to work on that as your sole profession, most people are just going to use what's called an engine or a library that does this for you. So again, I'm going to go over here to the right-hand side where we see object types, and I'm going to right-click on platform, and I'm going to hit edit behaviors. I'm going to add a new behavior. And you can see up here, one of the very first things, we have two of them. We have jump through and we have solid. Jump through is like that thing where if you're in a game and you can you can kind of jump through the bottom of a platform, but then you land on it. That's jump through. And then the solid is, you can't jump through the bottom of it. So you can pick whatever you want. There's a bunch of other things in here. Again, don't worry about them for right now. Okay, so I'm going to pick solid. Cool. So that is it. We should get a game. So I'm going to give everyone another second to catch up. Again, what you want to do is you want to make sure that Bill Gates has your platform movement behavior and that the platform has the solid attribute behavior. So I will give everyone just a second to catch up there. All right, any questions? Someone is saying platform doesn't show. Should I delete platform? So you don't want to delete platform because we're going to want him to stand on a platform. If platform doesn't show under object types, you need to make it. So what you're going to want to do, again, right click on object types, add a new object type, scroll down and find sprite, and we're going to need to make something called platform. So that's how you would do that if you can't find platform. You don't want to delete platform. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Now, if it's not showing up on the screen, if this is what your screen looks like, what that means is you need to go over here and drag it over. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And we'll see now we actually have a game. It's not the world's best game. There's no real winning condition. I can just walk right through the chair because, again, computers are dumb. We didn't tell it what to do with the chair. So it's just just ignore the chair. Okay. Yeah. Now, if it's just white for you when it opens the player, that's something someone asked in chat. Just white for me when I open the game. Make sure that everything is on the screen and that it's inside of this dotted line here. The dotted line is kind of the default, starting view. So we'll just drag everything out. There got our chair, and we'll hit play. To play, all you need to do is hit play up here. So just this triangle button right up here is what you want to click. Cool. So we had our game. You can use the arrow keys to move around. You can use space to jump. It's not much of a game yet, but it's starting to look like a game. So what other behavior should be on Bill? Well, right now, nothing, right? Right now, the only behavior we have on Bill is platform. Now, what if we wanted the screen to follow Bill Gates? That seems like a thing that lots of games would want to have. So we actually can go over here, right click on Bill Gates, hit edit behaviors, add a new behavior. And in here, we find this thing called scroll to. And that'll make the camera, sort of the person who's watching it always scroll to Bill Gates. So if I hit run now that he has that scroll to behavior, you can see that it actually follows him around, which is kind of neat. Don't worry if you didn't get that. That's fine. You don't need the scroll to behavior. But again, it is in here. It's in behaviors. And it's called scroll to. So while everyone catches up, just a reminder, like the goal of this workshop is not that not that you're ready to take a test on construct 3. You don't need to remember every single thing that we talk about here. And I'm going to show you some cool demos of things that you could do. You absolutely don't need to remember those. If you remember the general concepts of this and like how things are organized, what we want you to do during code day is kind of work with your mentor to figure out how to do some of these things. Figure it out for yourself. Because a lot of what we do as programmers, your school would have you believe that you need to learn something and you need to take a test before you're qualified to do it. And in reality, what we do as programmers, as people who make things, every day we face a new challenge. The things that even if you take a computer science class in school right now, most of the things that they would teach you are not actually very relevant anymore, because computer science actually changes so fast. So it's, you have to learn for yourself. And that's what a lot of what we want you to take out of this workshop is not exactly how to do every single thing. It's that here's generally how construct works. And I can just click buttons until it does what I want it to do. And sometimes that'll feel hard and it'll feel like it's not doing what you want. And that's when you ask for help. And you will absolutely need to ask for help as a professional programmer. I ask for help all the time. But that's just part of it. Okay, so we got our game right here. Now, how many people think when Bill Gates touches a chair, restart the game is a common thing that games would need to do? It's really not a particularly common thing to do, right? So it's probably when we go over here and we hit edit behaviors and add new behavior, it's not going to be in here, right? It's not going to be like restart game upon Bill Gates touching it. That's just not something that this has. But here's where we get into the complicated part, complicated in scare quotes, as they say, because it's not actually that complicated. Up here in the top bar up here, you have that play button, if you remember. And you see layout 1. We have a tab called layout 1, and that's what's selected right now. I'm going to click on event sheet 1. This is where we add our code stuff, right? This is where we add the stuff that makes it, actually do more complicated things than just a platformer game. Now, the way that construct code works is that we have what's called a condition and an action, or an event and an action. A condition or an event, as construct calls them, is something that happens. So we can say whenever this thing happens, and then the action is what we do. So maybe your parents might have told you, if you get another D on a homework assignment, you're going to be grounded. The condition is if you get another D, and then the action is you're going to be grounded, right? What is our condition or event for this situation, right? What is the thing that we're going to call it in this case? Well, what we want to say is when Bill Gates touches the chair. So I go over here to this event sheet 1 up in the tab bar. I click add event. Yeah, as someone said, it's like an if-then situation. That's another way to think of it. If this happens, then do this. And that's exactly the way that construct works. So I'm going to, in this event sheet one, I'm going to click add event. And then what do I want to click? Well, again, one of the things to remember about programmers is sometimes we don't always know what to do. And so, in this case, we can kind of guess. So I could click Bill, I could click Chair, I could click Platform, I could click System. And if I click the wrong one, I go into System and I don't see anything in here that looks super relevant, or maybe I even do, and then it still doesn't quite work. I pick on start of layout and then, oh, this doesn't do anything. I just delete it, right? No big deal. Totally fine. You can make a mistake. You're not going to lose any points in your test. Totally cool. And that is very normal for programming. I'd say 50% of my time when I program something is making mistakes. 40% of my time is fixing those mistakes. And 10% of my time is actually doing what I intend to do the first time. Totally fine. So I'm going to click add event. Some people said that I should pick Chair. Some people said I should pick Bill Gates. I'm going to pick Chair. Doesn't necessarily matter if I pick the wrong one. Doesn't matter. And actually, in this case, as someone who wrote this workshop and know how it works, it actually doesn't matter. You can pick either, because Bill Gates touching a chair is the same thing as the chair touching Bill Gates. Now, one of the things I like about construct is the things that you're commonly needing to do are actually highlighted. So I'm scrolling down here. On collision with another object is highlighted, so that's convenient. I'm gonna pick that one. And what is the object I want to check if they're colliding with? I'm going to check if they're colliding with Bill. So when the chair collides with Bill, and you can see that when the chair collides with Bill, I actually forgot to name my chair, so it's named Sprite, so I'll rename it to Chair. When the chair is colliding with Bill, now what do we want to do? Well, we want to restart the game. Now, where do you think restart the game would be? You might think, oh, it might be in Bill Gates, because Bill Gates is the one who's going to restart the game. So I'll pick that first. And I'll look through here. And there's a few things that might work. I could choose destroy, which would delete Bill Gates. And we could try that. I'll go ahead and pick that. I'll hit play. And now when I run the game, when Bill Gates hits the chair, he dies. Now the game doesn't restart, so maybe not quite what we were hoping for, but it's getting there. So I'll try something else. I'll check Bill Gates. I could try something like spawn another Bill Gates, because we want to respawn him. And it's like, well, what does image point mean? Bill, what does any of this mean? I don't know. This doesn't sound right. It sounds very complicated. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into system. If you're ever not sure where something is, system's a good place to check. And then scroll down and look for something that's called restart. And if we ever don't find something, we can always just type in restart. There we go, restart layout. A layout in construct is kind of like a world. You can think of it as a world. Cool. So now when Bill Gates hits the chair, he restarts. So I'm going to give you just a second to catch up. Make sure you're over here in event sheet one. Make sure you have this chair on collision with Bill or Bill on collision with chair. And then someone is saying, I don't have restart. You definitely should. Remember that we want to go and pick system and search for restart, and it'll come up right down here, restart layout. Remember that's in system. So here is what it looks like. I wonder if I can make this any bigger. Yes, it's not happy about it, but I can make it bigger. So I'll give you a second to catch up. Someone said, I still can't find restart. So again, restart in construct. I'll go ahead and reset this to 100%. Restart in construct. If you're clicking on this left-hand side, you won't find it. Remember, when we click add event, we're first going to pick what the thing that we're looking for is that if then. So we'll pick Bill on collision with another object. We'll pick objects and we'll pick chair. And now over here next to this, we're going to click add action, click system, and then we'll scroll down until we find restart layout. Now, one of the common problems people have is if you're trying to restart the layout over here on this left-hand side, the event side, that's the side where we tell it what to look for. And so if I'm just trying to find restart layout in here, you won't find it because it's not something you can look for. So that might be the other problem that you're having. Someone said I accidentally deleted the event sheet tab. So if you deleted the event sheet tab, don't worry about it. It's actually over here right above your object types. You're just going to double click on it and it'll open that tab back up. And you'll see that event sheet 1 actually goes with layout 1. So those two are related. Someone said I tried adding an action and my cursor moved outside of the dotted lines and I don't know how to make it go back. Do you mean when you say your cursor, do you mean like the player character, or you mean like your cursor is gone from the screen? I moved away from the dotted line, away from my sprites. So do you mean your player though, or you mean like your mouse cursor? The sprites, the player, the platform, and the chair. So are you saying that like the mouse cursor is way over here, or are you saying that when you play your game, your character is like really far away from things? So if your mouse cursor is really far away, you just need to you can I think if you middle click, it'll move around. If you're really having problems where like you can't see anything, you can't figure out how to get back, you can always close the tab and then just reopen it by double clicking on layout 1. And that should fix the problem. But if you middle click, it'll drag. How do you add an event that happens based on the player's input? I will get to that question in a second. Just because it's a little bit more complicated, but we can do that. Okay, so hopefully everyone has gotten a game that starts to look like a game. You got your player character, he can move around. In my case, my character is like not a very good jumper given the size of the chair. It's like a very difficult thing to jump over it. That's okay, we can fix that. But you know, we can always just resize the chair, but anyway. Okay, so now let's start getting into some of the more complicated things that make this more useful for making a game that'll be useful to you. Over here in object types, I can actually click and drag another platform out. So that's the advantage of having this idea of something, right? There are multiple chairs. There's like a factory that produces chairs and they're all the same. That factory for us is over here in object types. This object types folder is like the factory that produces more platforms, and I can just drag them out. And I can, you know, place another platform down here, and maybe I want to put my third platform over here, and I can actually resize them individually. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And you can see I can actually move around here. I can't actually fit through, but that's okay. Okay, I'm going to go through some more things. You don't need to follow along for this. By the way, we're just getting near the end of the workshop, and I wanted to make sure that I can show you some of the things that you need to that you can do with your game to make this more complicated. So someone was asking how you would have something that happens whenever the player presses a key. This is actually kind of weird for Construct. So what we're going to do is right click on object types, add a new object type. We're going to put keyboard. You can also choose mouse, gamepad, touch, because this will actually build games that run on the iPhone or the Android phones. I'd pick a keyboard, and then it'll show up in the event sheet where you can start to add events based on that. Here's something else we can do. Let's start to make this game a little bit more fun. I'm going to drag out a second Bill Gates. Now, remember, they're both from the same concept of a Bill Gates. So they actually both move, which makes this game quite a bit more complicated because now I have to get both Bill Gates to the end. So that could be something fun. Over here on this left-hand side that I said was pretty complicated, someone has done something that we told them not to do and disconnected me from the Twitch stream. So that is bad. Give me 1 second to find out who is connected right now. Okay, 1 sec. Okay, give me 1 second while I get my stream configuration back up. Cool. Sorry about that. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so over here, I can click on one of these things. And I can actually change on this left-hand side individual things about Bill Gates. So I can make this Bill Gates has 1,000 jump strength. And this Bill Gates, I'm going to make him really tiny, but he's going to be really fast. So this one is going to have, I'm going to make his max speed 1,000. I'm just making these numbers up, by the way. Now when I play it, I have this Bill Gates, which is way too fast, and this Bill Gates, who's a good jumper. And like, it's very difficult to get them both, you know, where I want them to be. So that's kind of cool, right? Yeah, I don't actually know if this game is winnable. I could start to make more events. So I could go over into my event sheet. I could add an event. I'm going to say system, and every X seconds. I'm going to say every 0.5 seconds. I'm going to system create an object. I'm going to choose a chair. I'm going to say, let's say I want it to be at a random position. I can actually just type random. 0, 1,000. So this will place it somewhere between 0 and let's say this will be -10. Okay. Don't worry about what that means. You can search for all this stuff later to figure it out. So that'll start spawning random chairs. And I can also make the chairs fall by clicking on the chair type, choose physics, and that'll make something fall. Again, don't worry about remembering any of this. These are all things you can find later by Googling. There's really good documentation online. But you can see now I have a game where it's raining chairs. And maybe I'll only have the tiny Bill Gates for this one. Now we have a game where it's raining chairs. And like my goal is actually maybe to survive as long as I can. So yeah, there's a game that actually maybe is starting to get a little bit more fun. Okay, so we have about 3 minutes left, I think, for questions. Again, don't worry about any of that more complicated stuff. You have enough to get started on your game. Please, after this, if you haven't yet, make a project on Showcase so you get assigned a mentor, and you can start talking to your mentor and getting some help. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Can you change the keyboard keybinds? I think so. I think the way to do that is you uncheck default controls over here. So I'd click on Bill Gates, I'd uncheck default controls, and then I'd make manual events that say like keyboard. I add that keyboard type, and then I add an event that says keyboard on key is down. I don't know what the key codes are, so you'd have to like Google search construct key codes. left right key is down maybe. Oh no, that's the shift keys. But you know, on a key, whenever a certain key is pressed, here we go, left arrow, whenever the left arrow is pressed, then I'd say Bill Gates. And I think that there's a thing called set vector Y, which basically, or simulate control, there we go, simulate control left. But instead of left arrow, maybe I want it to be the A key. So now when I hit play, whenever you hit the A key, well, I don't actually know why it's not working, but that should have moved him left. How do you uncheck set controls? You go into layout, click on the thing you want to unset the controls, and over here in this left-hand side, it says default controls. How do you get assigned a mentor? Go to showcase.codeday.org, create a project. You don't have to know what you're making yet. That's fine. All you need is a team name. But you would create a project on Showcase. And then once you've created a project, it will automatically assign you a mentor in Discord. So all you need to do is go to showcase.codeday.org and create your project. And that's the link again, showcase.codeday.org. Okay, so where do we go for Arduino? That's going to be right after this. So I'm going to go ahead and head out here. The Arduino thing will be coming up soon. If you have any questions for me about Construct, I will be online throughout the event. So feel free to post in help desk and we will help you out. If we need to, we'll even jump in a meeting room and I can help you with some questions one-on-one. So thank you all for coming. And have a good rest of your code day. Don't forget to go to showcase.codeday.org and create your team if you haven't. Thank you. Bye.